Well, footy's back. It is back. I know you know that. I know there's. I'm just stating the obvious, but footy is finally back. Round one. It's been. It's gone. We're going to address it. This is the Titus and Sergio Variety Hour. I'm Sergio Paradise, and I'm joined as always by Gold Logie nominee Titus O'Reilly.
Is footy back?
Footy's back.
I tell you what I didn't notice was back.
What?
The F1 Grand Prix.
I reckon it's funny
it
you
was
say
the least hyped one, I reckon, so far.
It's funny you say that. Somebody said that to me last week. You know the Grand Prix on this weekend? And I said, I did know that. But I said, you think 10 years ago even, it was just, you couldn't escape it. But now they just sort of sneak into town under the cover of darkness and then take off again.
I did not notice it at all. I literally, about a week out, found out it was on. Like, I kind of was like, oh, yeah, it's F1.
Well, even yesterday, I'd forgotten it was on. And then I thought, oh, is that Thunder? And I thought, oh, no, that's the rumble of the F18. Oh, the Grand Prix will be on a bit later. And I flicked it on briefly, and it's so boring to watch on telly, I've got to say. And by that stage, Daniel Ricciardo was out of the race.
So there's no reason to watch it.
There's actually no reason to watch it. Hamilton's in front and the Ferrari's coming second.
Well, I was watching, which we'll get to in a sec, but I was watching the Crows play GWS.
Yeah, well, I'd been watching that.
I just forgot completely that it was on.
That was much more entertaining.
Yeah, so now we should begin by thanking our supporters.
We should indeed.
We've had a bunch join up in the last week again, so they keep coming. We really appreciate it.
It's fantastic.
Supporters are the people we love the most.
They're the lifeblood of this organisation.
They are, literally, because we're buying fake blood to get past the drug testers with it. We should add as well that you've got a new podcast coming up.
Yeah.
You're cheating on me.
I am cheating on you. I've gone out on the side, just having a podcast on the side. No, this one is purely, and if you and I aren't biased enough as Melbourne supporters,
before you tell them what it is, I want our listeners to try and tell how this is going to differ from this podcast.
Yeah, except it may. Well, no, it won't have any more credibility or accuracy.
So tell them what it is.
It's called Details, as in DEETALES.
Oh, how many hours did you come up with?
I didn't name it, but they said, "What do you think of the name?" I said, "Yeah, fine, whatever." It's called Details. It's myself, broadcaster Ian Cohen, and radio producer Kerry Lambert from SEN, and
it's all about the Melbourne Football Club.
Melbourne Footy Club. We're recording the first one later today with special guest, former high-flying superstar Russell Robertson.
Wow.
And now singer Russell Robertson. So you have a look for that. It's going to be on the SEN website and I think iTunes as well.
Well, I wish you all the best, although I'll be a bit bitter if it goes well. Who was it that said, every time a friend succeeds, a piece of me dies?
Exactly.
I think that was Gore Vidal. I should mention then that I'm cheating on you too. One with Dane Swan. Second show, late show on Saturday the 8th of April. Coming out very quickly,
I was about to say, that's Saturday week.
Yeah, I need to turn my mind to that.
You might want to read his book sometime in the next week.
That's right. I actually am reading his book at the moment. So that's coming up. So the tickets are on sale for that, so I'll put them in the show notes as always. I think the first one at 7:30 is pretty much sold out. I think it is sold out.
Yep.
And the second one, which is at 9:30, which is going to be the late night with Dane Swan. That's where we're just openly...
Is there a bit of a turnaround after the first show? You go chuck down half a dozen quick pots just to loosen yourself up for the second one?
Amongst other things. I'll say to Swanee, you got anything to keep me awake? So that should be good. So if you want to come to that, you better get it and get tickets pretty quickly, because the last few shows I've done at Yarraville's all sold out. So this one looks on track to do that too. So wouldn't want you to be left disappointed.
No, don't miss out. No, it will be a good night.
I'm also doing every Monday morning.
This is an absolute cheat fest, isn't it?
You can go make yourself a coffee while I read these out, because there's another...
do your own bloody promos.
I'm doing, in Melbourne, I'm doing breakfast radio. I'm doing every Monday morning to wrap up the round in the AFL. I'm doing Nova 100. That's with Sam Pang, Chrissy Swan and Jonathan Brown.
Geez, they're three big names.
Yeah, it's the biggest break anyone's had since Jordan DeGooey. So I've done two of them now. They're a bit of fun. So if you happen to listen to Nova in the morning, I'll be on at usually at about 8:20 in the morning doing that, which means it's great because I can just roll in from the pub from Sunday night, the Star.
It used to be Sunday sessions at the Star. Or Swanee's pub will be opening again soon.
Excellent. I can kill two birds with one stone.
We'll have to get Swanee to give us, I don't know, drink cards or medallion. In my day, you used to have a medallion.
I remember that with night. There's probably something on an app on your phone now or something.
But back then it was like and we touched on this with Steve Quartermain last week, that it was a status symbol. The bigger and heavier your keychain was, your car keys, you had all the medallions.
Now, we should also, a bit of an update on a story we talked about last week, which was
great story.
Bit of fun. The soccer player who thanked his girlfriend and his wife in his post-match speech.
When he won man of the match.
Accidentally.
Yeah, I'd like to thank my wife and girlfriend.
And then said, oh, sorry, my wife, I love her. Now, this got a lot of media, therefore...
This went right around the world.
He got followed up and he decided he needed to explain this away.
Oh, okay, so...
And I just want you to tell me if you think this is maybe, this is a sort of ended the controversy in one fell. So whoever is advising him has done a great job. He said, in thanking his wife and his girlfriend in the post-game interview, he said, "My family knows that I call my daughter my girlfriend. That's what I was talking about. I don't have a girlfriend."
Well, that's helped. Yeah. Everyone knows I call my daughter my girlfriend. It's not helping.
That's not helping at all. Stop digging.
Yeah,
Someone get the shovel off him.
You probably should have stuck with just having a girlfriend. It may have been better than that.
Yeah, that's right. I think I didn't think it was possible to dig a deeper hole.
Yeah.
But he's shown me that athletes can one up.
He's not only digging the hole, but he's loading the weapon too that somebody's got to put against the back of his head.
How bad is that? That's terrible. Now, we should move on to the weekend. I went out on the weekend.
Did you?
Yeah, I left the house twice.
You left the lonely bedsit?
I left twice.
Right.
I went up to the... I ran out of Dan Murphy's. I ran out of booze. Yeah. I'm not going to lie to you. I went up to the pub just near me and to watch the AFL Women's Grand Final.
Oh, yes.
And... because I had run out of booze, so I thought I'll just go watch it at the pub.
Two birds with one stone there.
That's right. I'm the lonely, crazy guy at the end of the bar, and the pub was packed.
Really?
They had balloons, everything, heaving. Everyone watching. They had lots of screens.
And this is what time did it actually start?
1 o'clock, I think it was. Yeah. I think it was more like closer to 2 or something.
Yeah, but it was sort of early afternoon. It wasn't prime time.
So I stayed for most of it, although I then shot off to the Melbourne game.
Yes, of course.
But and watched the rest of it on my phone on the way on the train, which was exciting while I was drunk.
Here's one of life's winners right in the corner.
Such a sad life that I lead. So it was a great game, and it was what I liked is seeing that. It's sort of this idea that after round one, a few people said, "Oh, let's see how well it does in after a few rounds, the novelties wore off." Well, the novelty hadn't worn off, and there was no. Imagine if there was this was in Melbourne, and there was no Melbourne team in the grand final, and it was still a packed pub. Everyone was really into it, clapping, applauding,
it was
following the whole thing. It was great.
And I watched most of the game, and I think I said it a few weeks ago that how impressed I was, and how much I love Erin Phillips. She's just a dead set superstar.
Oh yeah,
and
great.
she just looked a class above again on Saturday. But yeah, and they got a good crowd there. I must admit.
Huge crowd.
When I first,
considering it had more than the Q Clash.
Yeah, I know, it's bigger than the Q Clash. Yeah. But the funny thing was the Q Clash was at the same venue.
Yeah, that's what I mean.
So they had to clear out the crowd from the grand final.
They did, and then moved
bring in the Q Clash.
And that was less. More people left than came back.
So like nightclub, one in, one out.
That's how they do it now. One of the things nightclubs come up a lot in our discussion for two blokes that never go near them.
That couldn't get into one.
If I go to a nightclub these days, people think either someone's dad's looking for them or an undercover cop has shown up. Not a very good one. One thing I liked about the AFL Grand Final, a bit of controversy this morning, if you could call it that, is Erin Phillips brought her two children onto the ground afterwards, who I think they're less than 1 year old, but they're not newborns.
They're small.
But it was after the match, and she brought them on, and it was a really nice moment. Well, Gary Lyon, one of our favourites,
yes, SEN breakfast host,
one of the best appointers of coaches ever. He came out this morning and criticised that and said it could have been dangerous to the kids. Are you like me, think it's always good to take advice on family from Gary Lyon?
Oh, look, he's my go-to guy for that sort of thing, I must admit.
I've got to say the comments on social media in response to that were not kind.
I've got to say, as soon as that came up on the newsfeed about the first 5, well, it's not as bad as you.
Gary will never be forgiven for what he did.
No,
it's kind of one of those weird, and this weird thing is if he just cheated. This is the kind of the psyche of a lot of people. If he cheated on his wife, most people would forgive him. Yeah. But it's the best mate bit that gets the people.
Best mate bit.
I don't know how much I'd care. If someone cheats on me, I'd just be pretty bitter. But I guess the sting in the tail.
Well, let's see how my podcast goes, and we'll see how your
Why? What's going to happen there?
Well, I don't know.
That's why being lonely means I don't have to worry about a lot of things happening.
But the thing was, I mean, let's get to what Gary actually said.
Do we really have to even talk about his opinions? Yeah, no, you're right.
But, I mean,
Jordan Lewis brought his kid, who was even younger, up on the stage when he won a grand final. There's no issue.
I think it was, Hawthorn's last premiership. And that kid was smaller than Aaron Phillips.
It's the dumbest thing I've ever heard.
And every single... And this was after the game, mind you. But look at every time...
It's not like she was playing with the kids attached to her. It's not like the kids were playing.
If she'd gone out there with two of them in a backpack, like you see down at the coffee shop, fair enough. But how many times you see when a player has a milestone match, they go through the banner with holding a toddler in one hand and holding the hand of the little kid running next to him.
Yeah, Gary needs to retire, I think.
Yeah.
But anyway,
if he may well have to, sure.
Won't be a choice. So anyway, well done to the AFL.
It's a tough business, radio.
So well done to the AFL women's. Actually, great competition. I enjoyed it. It's the perfect lead into the lead into the season. It was, but the thing I think about the women's game that made it work this year is the first few rounds, it was everyone's interest in this thing happening. Yeah. There was the novelty factor. But if the footy hadn't been entertaining, it would have sunk like a stone. Yeah. And you got to give them credit that it was actually entertaining to watch. It's a fun game to watch. Like, that's what all sport needs to be if you're going to pay attention. It has to be fun. And I found myself watching it and really enjoying the sport. It's a bit different to the men's. The skill levels not there across the board, but the skill level in the season alone improved dramatically across the board. So it's a different type of game, but it's an interesting game. It's actually like very open and
there's more turnovers and fumbles, but it harks back to, I mean, and this is not a put down. It's like junior footy where everyone's trying to get the ball and handball and get it to their teammate, and things happen. There's not set plays and structures, and there is a bit, but it's not as structured as the men's game.
But also,
and that makes it a better thing to watch.
The best players in the women's too are the ones that don't fumble.
Yes,
and that skill level is going to come up. But the best ones like the Aaron Phillips and the Daisy Pearce and things like that, who you watch them, and they're really clean now, like they're good now, and so that standard's going to come up, and it's
well, so you look at Erin Phillips, she's come, everyone says, from the basketball background, but she's like, you could say 10 years of elite development behind her, when the girls who are just starting to play footy now are the 14-year-olds or 13-year-olds. When they've had 7 or 8 years of development there, they'll all be as good as Aaron Phillips is now, so it will be worth watching.
No, it's going to be good.
It was a good season. We're not being patronising. It really...
No, but you and I were into it from the start.
I think it exceeded everyone's expectations, I've got to say, and I reckon the AFL would even agree with that.
Next year I hope the finals, there's a prelim final round as well. That would make it a lot better.
Imagine if it was Melbourne-Collingwood grand final.
I'll keep that Melbourne talk on your other podcast, Serge.
Jeez, haven't you gone off?
I'm just a bit hurt right now.
After our big win, but we'll get to that in a moment.
Now, getting to the round, it was a crazy round one. How did chips go?
I got 3.
Yeah, I don't know.
And I was only saved by Geelong winning late yesterday.
I don't know what I got. It was 3 or 4. It wasn't much better than that.
I tipped St Kilda.
Oh, really? Yeah, I tipped St Kilda too.
Yeah, I thought...
But why wouldn't you? They'd won 14 in a row there, and we'd won 1 out of 25
and at quarter time, I thought, well, I'm right.
I got this one. At least my tip's going to be all right. Some of the big things that came out of the round, we should add is the Giants losing to the Crows. That was a big outcome. That was interesting.
It was.
Did you watch that?
Yeah, I did watch that. And do you think the AFL might have to give them back the Riverina recruiting zone?
I think there's a crisis meeting happening right now. They looked pretty ordinary, but also the Crows looked really good.
The Crows looked very slick.
They won so that's the AFL women's grand final and beating GWS on the one weekend.
Yeah.
It's the happiest
Doesn't get much better than that, does it?
It's the happiest Crow supporters have been since Maggie Beer launched her ice cream range.
Well, our good friend Angela Pipos tweeted late yesterday. For an Adelaide supporter, this has been one of the all-time great weekends.
Yeah.
You know?
I know. They had a great day, I think. Now, also...
And then the power cut out, and that was the end of her message before she...
My phone's about to die. Now, the Swans also lost. So that's both New South Wales teams losing.
And whoever would have tipped Port to beat Sydney Sydney
Not
at
me.
the SCG?
But also, if both the Giants and the Swans are bad, and I don't want to, overreacting to round one results, I'm fully aware of what I'm saying, but if they are both bad this year, who's Eddie going to blame when Collingwood missed the finals? He's going to have to blame Adelaide or something. He's got to swing around.
Well, Adelaide, I don't know, do they get the new Barossa Valley Academy?
That's right.
We've got to give the Melbourne clubs something to blame.
Do you think the Adelaide Crows are on performance enhancing Verjuice
or Metwurst?
That's right. Now, also, Power are amazing. Now, we'll get to a bit of the Power win in a bit later, but also Melbourne, of course, breaking the hoodoo. They've won 24. Before going into this, they'd won 24 or 25 games. They'd lost 24 or 25 games.
And the only victory was against GWS in their first year, I think.
That's right. And then on top of that, Melbourne had also beaten... had also lost to St Kilda 14 in a row. No one beats Melbourne 15 times in a row, Serge, except for North Melbourne, who have done that.
I think that's in the Constitution, yeah.
I know North have beat us more than that, so it didn't feel like it was going to be good.
No, it's certainly at quarter time. It was quarter time. I thought, here we go again. Typical Melbourne. All the talk, and then the first quarter of the season, there's fumbles, there's turnovers. St Kilda was laying all the pressure.
Yeah.
And then bang, they turned it around, and then St Kilda looked soft by the end of it.
St Kilda did not look good.
No.
By the end of that.
Can we write the Saints off already?
Oh, yeah, absolutely. Yeah, anyone that lost this round...
Flash in the pan.
Tell you someone else we need to write off is Hawthorn.
Oh, they're gone. They're gone. Gone for all my...
They did. It did look bad when Mitchell and... Lewis
Jordan
were playing well elsewhere.
I had 71 possessions between them.
Yeah, and you just had the Hawthorn. I mean, I know they're trying to plan for the long-term future, but it was a...
And Tom Mitchell did play well, who they got from Sydney to replace your Sam Mitchell.
Yeah.
He did play well, but yeah, they looked a bit... I don't know.
Not good?
Not good is probably the best way you could... That is the best way to describe it.
Wasn't it terrific to see... the Essendon players come back from shooting themselves in the foot.
Yeah, or in the arse,
Well, the thing there I found amazing is everyone was going on about how great it was seeing Essendon players back.
Mm.
And you're looking at it and going, well, we all remember why they didn't play.
They've had the year off.
Have I missed something?
Yeah.
Was there something else here that they were out for?
No.
We got a fair few questions.
Yeah, well, I think we'd rather than answer that.
The reason I say this is the Melbourne media, especially, are just almost uniformly over the top praising the Bombers players as this is this good feel good story.
It's like they've survived a plane crash in the Andes for 12 months, but haven't eaten each other, and they've actually got back to Melbourne.
Well, not all of them have come back, so we don't know. Daniel Eade wrote, name another sport where convicted drug cheats are celebrated when they return.
I saw this question last night, and I actually sat there, and for the first time ever, I've actually tried to research one of our questions, and I could not think of one where
there's another sport
where drug cheats are celebrated on their return.
Maybe the WWE?
Yeah, I was thinking cycling, but no.
But even cycling, they don't really
celebrate them.
The other one is Paddy Tay Keeley.
Good name, that.
How pleased are the AFL that the fairy tale start to the season begins with these wonderful Essendon players returning from a team doping ban. They are able to overcome the nasty Hawthorn, whose captain only had to overcome cancer. And it's a bit like that. You're kind of going, well, hang on. Jared Ruffhead has actually overcome cancer. And that was a feel-good story too. But compared to the amount of... I mean, see, my view here, just so all the Essendon supporters and listening who've heard us go on about this lot, but my actual view is I'm not saying... So these players have served their ban.
They've done their time.
They are welcome back. I have no problem with them coming back. They did the wrong thing. It exhaustively aired in various jurisdictions. They were found guilty. You can have a view that they might have been naive and followed advice they shouldn't have and let down themselves. So I agree with all that. That doesn't mean we need to have to... So you don't have to be nasty about them coming back and say, oh, they're all terrible drug cheats and screw them, they shouldn't come back. I'm not saying that. I'm just saying let's just not over-egg them to be like they cured cancer.
You don't tie a yellow ribbon around every tree in the MCG car park like they're returning Vietnam veterans.
That's right. It's like they're,
they've served their time, they're back. Okay, let's get on with it.
Anyway, it's kind of, who knows, but that people did really get stuck in.
And the good thing is, just that's Essendon. Hawthorn, I think we can officially write them off this week as they're playing Adelaide, and they're fitting them. They're going to struggle against Adelaide.
I know, but you don't know what's going to happen with... This is the thing. Round one's always interesting.
Yeah.
But I just still can't believe, Sydney are going to be terrible. That's not going to be true.
No, that's not
GWS aren't going to be terrible. They will bounce. We'll have a bet on this.
You know who probably will be terrible? Melbourne.
Shush. Bring that up on your other podcast. You know who's probably... They're going to say about GWS in a few weeks, I think that loss against Adelaide was the loss they needed to have.
Right.
That's what they'll say. They'll say it was a wake-up call that they needed. That will be the difference.
And, of course, when a team needs a wake-up call in round one, you'd have to maybe question their preparation a little.
Well, I mean, everyone's told them that they're winning the premiership this year, so it's probably kind of a bit of a reality check. Collingwood also didn't look awful.
No, I watched this game. I watched the first game and then this one, Collingwood against the Bulldogs. They to their credit, they never gave it up, Collingwood, and they did look pretty good at times.
They looked all right. I mean, they didn't look...
It's still, as we thought, their backline's going to struggle against really good teams with really good forwards. Yeah. And again, their forward line struggled a bit without Elliott. And I thought Darcy Moore didn't do enough.
The Bulldogs didn't look... they didn't really look very good.
No.
But I mean, they won despite not playing very well, which is a good sign. They didn't look... I mean, the thing here is the good coaches know that now's not the time you have your team playing at its peak.
Well, this is what Hawthorn were always so good at. They'd have they would just go through the motions for the first 6 weeks.
Yeah, they want to win. You want to win sort of 4 out of 6 or something.
Come September, they were absolutely in the go zone.
That's what everyone forgets in the first few weeks. But anyway, Melbourne-Richmond Premiership. Did you find it funny, as grand final, did you find it funny how much everyone banged on about how good Dustin Martin played?
Yes.
Without pointing out he was playing Carlton?
Yeah.
I mean, Channel 7 seriously talked about it like he'd won we're talking about him as a Brownlow threat and that he'd added $200,000 to his next contract based on that one game. And I was like, he's playing Carlton. I'm not even saying... he played a brilliant game.
He was.
And if he can do that a few more times in the season, or consistently, I'll take my hat off to him. But... They were saying things like comparing him to Lee Matthews. Lee Matthews used to play like a game like that every fortnight,
every second week
against top quality in grand finals and stuff.
Against teams who are trying to belt him behind play, and a couple of times, and this is where Channel 7 their commentators just go over the top. A couple of times, old Dusty did his traditional move of coming out of a pack, putting out the left hand with the don't argue.
Yeah.
But twice I saw him do it to some kid from Carlton playing about his second game, and it was like you or I doing it to an Oz kick kid. Yeah. It was just a completely different...
Although I wouldn't be confident if me doing it to an Oz kick would actually the kid not tackle me to the ground and break my arm.
Even though tackling is illegal in Oz kick.
It wouldn't matter. I'd be like, I'm arthritic.
But you're right. Dustin Martin, he did play a great game, but
the way they went on about it. And Anyway, that was just sometimes they do get carried away. Now the biggest story out of the whole round, Serge.
The biggest. There was
a couple, but one that I thought was could have had the biggest impact is the Chinese premier. So this is they've got a president, the second in charge of China, the second most powerful man in China, attended the Port Power Sydney Swans game up at the SCG. Hey, now
you go on.
Well, now that's part of this big push. He was here for trade talks.
Yeah.
But
he'd be all over this match in Beijing, wouldn't he, coming up?
Is it Shanghai?
No, it's not Beijing, it's Shanghai. I always get them.
Yeah, they're the same.
Yeah. They all look the same.
All the cities
those type of cities.
Yeah. Hang on. Be careful what you say, because 18C hasn't been fully repealed yet, Serge.
Oh, but it's going to be.
Yeah. As soon as it is, you can start writing banners.
I'll begin to intimidate rather than just harass.
Now, the thing here is he was showing up, went along, and he was sitting there with David Koch and the Prime Minister at the time of us recording, Malcolm Turnbull. And so Kochie gives him a scarf to wear, obviously wanting him to be seen in the power colours. And so the Sydney Swans, and Turnbull had on a Sydney scarf, so the Sydney Swans got him a Sydney scarf too.
As you do.
So he had both scarves on at the same time at the footy.
And let me guess, Kochie wouldn't have liked this.
So Kochie, there's a great picture of Kochie almost trying to pick the Sydney Swan off him. And I was half hoping that
he got stuck round his neck.
Well, I was hoping one of the Chinese security staff might have taken a shot at him.
Good. Can you imagine if he tried to pull the scarf off and then start strangling him?
This is the second most powerful man in China, and Kochie's trying to grab a scarf off his neck.
There'd be a diplomatic incident, around the world. TV host tries to strangle Chinese premier,
Oh, it would have been. I mean,
game in Shanghai.
We'll all count ourselves lucky if Kochie's little push into China doesn't end in World War III. I'm going to count myself lucky. But my favourite bit is through an interpreter, Mr. Lee, who's the premier, said, and this is what he said through it. So imagine this. This is like one of the most powerful men in the world. They asked him about the game, and through an interpreter, he said, and I did not make this up. You can go and look. This is in the news. He said, on this occasion, wearing two scarves is making me really hot.
And so he turned to the interpreter and said, $8 for a beer?
He's wearing two scarves and he's really hot. And was like, take off both of them. Why are you wearing two scarves?
And look, the other thing about that photo, Malcolm Turnbull is just completely out of place at AFL. I mean,
at any sporting event.
Yeah, but especially AFL.
Yeah.
I mean, when was the last Prime Minister we had that actually looked at home at a game of footy? Now, I know John Howard loved his cricket.
But he didn't like AFL. He had no interest in it.
No real interest.
And Bob Hawke was at least a sport. He looked like genuinely home and any sports fan, mainly because he was sculling a beer.
Yeah. Paul Keating never looked happy at sport. Sport's not his go.
He was into antique clocks.
Wasn't he president of Richmond for 5 minutes?
Was he?
No, that was Alan Bond.
I always get those two confused.
Yeah, again, they're like Beijing and
They all look the same.
They all look the same.
All these white guys look the same to me.
Inexpensive suits.
I'm glad we're just spreading our racism now out.
Yeah, I think, we can go further.
What is this, the hot breakfast?
Geez, now you're on Nova. You're having a punch on it anyway.
Oh, that's right. Yeah. Now we should. I just love that wearing two scarves make him really hot.
Really hot.
That's the thing.
Take them off you, Pino.
That's all he had to say about AFL footy. God, we're going to really win over China, aren't we? Rhombus Isotope wrote
this would be one of 15 questions that Rhombus put to us this week.
He's into quantity, not quality sometimes, but then that's my
so are we.
That's our approach to comedy. He said, should being forced to sit between David Koch and Malcolm Turnbull be a crime against humanity? I think it is. I think it's against the Geneva Convention.
Oh, no doubt.
Now, I just want to, before we move off last week's round, I'm going to move the agenda around here, Serge. So you'll need to be at that agile best that only you can.
At that pointy end.
Just skipping over the next one to go to another point I just wanted to add. Now, there's a lot been made of Melbourne breaking the Etihad hoodoo.
Hoodoo.
Now, Do you think it had something to do with the fact that Etihad Stadium is now offering 4 types of different salts for your chips
I came
at
late
the stadium?
to this story sort of broke. Was it Saturday night or something?
I can't remember if I read it late. I saw it at AFL tweeted out, and then about 100 people wrote to me within minutes going, I hope you and Sergio are across this.
Yeah, I kept seeing it. I'm thinking, what's the deal with salt at Etihad? And it explained to me.
Well, let me tell you what's happening. Etihad Stadium's launched a secret salt as well as 2 other new types of salt. So they've got. Now, you think about it. If you heard that they're going to have more than one type of salt, you instantly think they're going to still have normal salt.
Right.
But their chicken salt is not one of them, which is crazy.
That's madness.
And so they said that the ones that they're going to actually have is chili, lime, and thyme. Now, that's not 3 types of salt. That's a 1 type of flavour of salt.
Get off.
Now, then they've also got a milder one, which is lemon, garlic, and oregano. What do you think? I wish I could show your reaction. We really need to be on TV purely just to show your reaction to this story.
A chili, lime, and thyme, or lemon, garlic, and oregano salt.
The other one is a secret salt.
Right.
Now, I suspect that's the salt that they've been putting on the surface for years to stop the grass from growing.
Well, to try and bind the soil together.
Or it's whatever salt they spilt on the floor the week before is swept up and put into the secret salt.
And then somebody's gone, those little dark bits, we can pass them off as oregano.
Is this the dumbest thing ever?
Oh, it's fine if they can have 15 types of salt if they want, but I wouldn't be putting out press releases about it. I think to have 4 different types of salt is something.
It's got a lot of coverage.
Yeah, that's my point. That is something that you should just discover for yourself when you walk into the food shop.
What salt would you like with that, sir?
Oh,
what?
I'll get
what I'd like if they actually didn't just have mid-strength beer? That would less salt, more alcohol.
Yeah, and mid-strength beer, and as I say again, for $8 for a schooner.
Can you imagine getting in a time machine, going back to the 50s, and telling the people at the footy, hey, in the future, we've got sushi and 4 types of salt at our games.
Yeah, forget your pies and your full-strength beer in stainless steel cans.
Yeah.
Years to come, we're going to have a stadium with a roof on it, and inside you can get raw fish attached to rice, and it'll be only $15.
And then it'll be like, what did we fight the war for? I just think that must be why Melbourne actually got up on the weekend, you got to say. Brooke H. wrote in, was it the introduction of 3 different types of salt which made the difference in Melbourne's performance at Etihad?
Well, it's a fair question. It is a very fair question.
Possibly because it just opened up a portal to another dimension where Melbourne not terrible.
Yeah, possibly. I'm still trying to get my head around.
Alexander Supertramp.
Chili lime. I like this.
Alexander Supertramp, which I basically put him in because of the
crisis.
name.
What crisis?
Which variety of salt came out on top at Etihad, do you think?
This is the important thing. What I can't get over. Yeah, which one of the traditional salt, your chili, thyme and whatever, and your lemon and garlic and oregano, but no chicken salt. If they're going to have 4 types of salt, they should all be chicken salt.
No, I've got a salt variety or flavour for you that I think you would actually get right behind.
Okay, hit me with it.
A bourbon and Coke salt. That delicious taste of bourbon and Coke
poured over your chips.
Poured over your chips.
Look, I know you're kidding,
Alcoholic
but that would
salt.
sell. That would sell like hotcakes.
I'm an ideas man. That would be.
Yeah. AFL, you can have that for free, just as I suggested to Channel 10 that they should do an AFL goggle box.
How good would that be?
It would. Hey, now listen, just before we finish with the footy, did you see any of the Geelong Freo match last night? The bit there was only one bit that caught my eye. Did you see when Michael Barlow did the dab? He dabbed after he kicked the goal. Quick word of advice.
The celebration that
the celebratory dab that the kids have pinched from Steph Curry in the NBA. quick word of advice
Was
to
it
Michael
Steph
Bowen.
Curry?
Well,
I thought it was Cam Newton and the Carolina Panthers that
he
invented
started it, but
Yeah.
everyone, sort of the kids do it.
Lots of them done it.
Don't do it, Michael,
It's
when
where
you're
you
40.
put your head into the sort of the crook of your elbow.
Yeah, and hold your hand
your
up
other
over the top.
hands.
But don't do it when you're 43 points behind, Michael.
Well, do you know the funny thing about that is he did it after he kicked a goal and they were 43 points behind. And I wrote something disparaging about it. And a few people pointed out that he was doing it for charity, for a sick kid in the hospital. He'd agreed to, for each dab he did, he'd donate a certain amount of money.
Oh, okay.
Now, so people said to me, well, you can't bag it because it's for charity. Well, sorry. Charity is not, a magic wand that means you can do whatever you want. You know?
Yeah, well,
He could have donated the money for each goal he kicked.
Well, look,
or for each clanger Fremantle had.
You and I and this podcast, we support charities. For example, we just did a thing for the Make-A-Wish Foundation where we raised a lot of money to send a very sick kid to Alaska just so he could indulge his lifelong childhood dream of clubbing a baby seal.
Serge, you're going to Is this you trying to sabotage this podcast because you're about to go to another one? Now, no, you can do it. You can do anything from I don't think charity means you're allowed to dab.
No,
I think that's where
not, but I will back off a bit if Michael Barlow was doing it for. Yeah. Now, he should have just stuck with 4 types of salt.
It does look bad it does look bad when you're doing it and you're 43 points down.
Yeah, it's not a good look.
Anyway, now something that does not surprise me, Hawthorn. This story broke last year.
You love this. Yeah.
Well, the Hawthorn Football Club. Now, it broke last year that this had occurred, but they got their punishment last week. They were found to be operating some of their pokies illegally. Now, it was at one of their venues. They've got more than one. At the Vegas pub in Waverley Gardens. Now, does anything sound more glamorous than that?
Oh, I know this joint. It's
across. There's not a pub in Australia. Do you know I've mentioned so many pubs across Australia in the course of this podcast, and you never have once gone, no, don't know it, mate.
I know it. I've never been in there, but I grew up out there, out near
Doesn't matter. I've seen ones in Sydney and Perth, and you're like, yeah.
Cities I've never even visited.
Yeah, Barry's pub.
Yeah, I've never been to that city, but Tomo runs it. No, the Waverley Gardens is the one. It's across the road from their their current training ground at Waverley.
Oh, right,
at
old VFL Park. Yeah. Well, anyway, they were operating it. It does sound great, though.
But you are right. Pub. But you are right. The word Vegas is that's up in the ante.
I can't think of many places either that have in a suburb sense that have gardens in it, Waverley Gardens, that aren't instantly horrible.
No, or exactly like when you go to Vegas, there isn't a. You can't visit the VFL Park Casino there or the Waverley Gardens, casino on the Strip.
So anyway, they went to the Melbourne Magistrates Court last Thursday because of this licensing infringement. And the way it was actually worked out is what they're going to do is the money. So what they actually did, Hawthorn, I mean, it proves once again that Hawthorn Football Club is a criminal organisation that I've long said and should be shut down immediately. Yeah. Which they seem to be doing themselves.
Like the Comancheros or the Rebels. They are a criminal organisation.
But what they did is they basically, I think
good afternoon to the Comancheros, by the way.
The official outlaw motorcycle gang of our... We don't have an affiliate motorcycle gang.
No, I think now we have.
Now, we should add that what I think has happened here is it was between only about 3 or 4 days. What happened was, I think it was an admin mistake where they found that they hadn't lodged the right paperwork. So for 3 days, they were operating without the correct permit or license. And to their credit, they shut down operating them
immediately
once they realised they didn't have the paperwork and then applied again for it and everything. I assume it's back up and stealing money from people. So they said what they're going to do is all the profits they made from those 3 days it was running.
This is the interesting thing.
The court and they agreed that they're going to do what's called a diversion order, which is you pay that money and give it to a charity.
Oh, there you go.
So they're giving it to the Salvation
Should give it to
Army.
Michael Barlow.
That's right. So that's what's that. So Hawthorn, that's the punishment they got for that. Some would say it's a storm in a teacup, but really they should be run out of the league.
They should. But hey, the interesting thing is they're donating the profits of 3 days, and it's $66,000.
Yeah, in 3 days.
22 grand a day they make profit out of the pokies. It's astounding. It's astounding.
That's podcast money.
Even in Waverley Gardens, that is podcast. It's serious podcast
well,
money.
This is the thing. This is like half the. It's worse in the league, but if you pull gambling out, it's sadly propping up most of the AFL clubs.
There's no question of that.
So except for North Melbourne, we should add. Yeah, North have been very good on that.
And they can stand on their moral high horse, but it doesn't help them on the field, does it?
They've got a moral high horse that's on the moral high ground. It's grazing on the moral high ground. Now, while this has all been going on, the footy back, and it's very exciting down here, we should add that the 4th test is going on over in India.
Yep.
Which is different to Beijing and Shanghai again, Serge.
It is. And
you a big fan of India?
Never been to India. Have no intention.
Do you like it?
No. I mean, you look.
You not liking a place isn't usually.
When you watch the 4th test, it's got. And again, this is something the commentators remind you of at length, is the beautiful outlook behind
of the Himalayas in the background.
In the background, yeah.
What I've been... So we hear nothing but how into cricket the Indian people are. And then when you look at all the test match, pretty much every day, there is nobody one in the crowd. It is just empty.
It's too hot. They just watch it on the telly. Is it too
expensive? I don't know what are the grounds not in easy to get to locations? Are there not enough salts on offer? That's really what they should be.
Get a bit of lemon, lime and chilli over there.
Oh, gee, you could do some good stuff. A tikka masala salt. You can pretty much solve every problem with some...
I'll have a bit of Rogan Josh salt on my chips, thanks.
Actually, now we're coming up...
That would work.
Now we're firing with ideas. So anyway, it looks like... It's an interesting test because it looked like Australia were doing... not that well, but then a few wickets collapsed last night. We're recording this on Monday, and it looked like it was getting a bit better. But perhaps most interesting about the cricket is just before it, the Aussies met with the Dalai Lama.
What was he doing in town? Was he...
he's not allowed to go home. The Chinese won't let him go home.
He just wanders around
the world.
He follows the cricket. He follows the sporting events around the world. Next week he'll be sitting with Kochi at the SCG or the Adelaide Oval
with several scarves piled on him. Very hot.
GWS, because he goes with the orange.
That's right. Now the Dalai Lama was there, and he spoke to... They had this great picture of the Australian cricket team all sitting there listening to him speak. And Nathan Lyon looks like he's literally asleep. Yeah. That's how relaxing the Dalai Lama is. He just radiates calmness.
Did they sledge him?
That's what I was waiting for them to start doing. And David Warner just had a lot of questions about how best to tune his OLED TV. David Warner the look on his face was, who is this guy? He was wondering who he was.
If I was expecting to see David Warner go, hey mate, speak English.
When did he say that? He said that on... David Warner said that once to someone.
Yeah, I know he did. That's what
or did he tweet it or something? He did do something like that. He did it to
someone who actually did speak English, but
but he
did it with a fairly heavy
So anyway,
accent.
What are meetings of the minds? That would be David Warner and the Dalai Lama. Steve Smith spoke to him and asked him about how he could get better sleep. So you met with this spiritual holy man in the first, and even if you're not a religious person or a spiritual person, which I'm not, I know you're very spiritual.
Yeah, it just emanates from me. Or is that the bourbon coming out of my pores?
But you could ask him anything, and so Steve said, is there any tips on how I could sleep better?
And what did the Dalai say?
He said,
make a couple of beers before bed.
Yeah, that's right. He said he said listen to Michael Clark's commentary.
Nature's sleeping pill.
Liam Ahern wrote in, who was the more of a spiritual muse to the Australian cricket team, the Dalai Lama or Rod Marsh?
Well, Rod Marsh got a better mo.
Yeah, that's right. They've both seen things.
And good afternoon to all our Buddhist friends that are listening at the moment.
That's our official religion.
We've actually got a list of people to offend.
We are
this
really
week.
going through a lot at the moment. It's pretty Actually, anyone we have, if you would like us to offend your group on air, we've offended sick kids in hospital.
Yeah.
You've got to go the Chinese.
The Make-A-Wish Foundation.
Make-A-Wish.
Who else?
Oh, we had
we had a good crack at. We haven't.
I'm full of others. I had to go at Waverley Gardens, which is a beautiful place.
As you explained, we're trying to get all this in before 18C is repealed properly.
Then we're really going to go to town. Now, moving on to our next story, Serge. I saw this and thought, well, forget your salt.
Yeah.
Getting salt is since the AFL bought Etihad, they've bought in the salt. Huge tick. They've bought in yoga classes. Huge.
Well, they're
tick.
still talking about the yoga classes. I don't think they've actually started yet.
I know, you'll be the first to know. They've announced a bunch of other things, like they wrote this thing about all the things they're doing to improve Etihad, and one of them they talked about, and I do applaud them doing this because they need to do it, but it's kind of funny that these are seen as big positives, they've done. So one of the things they said was making it easier to purchase tickets.
Wow.
And you're kind of like, that's like they are literally fixing things that should have been fixed decades ago.
And I saw them say,
and they're
also
talking them up like, isn't this great? You're going to be able to buy a ticket.
Yeah. And they also said on Saturday morning, now, make sure you get there early so you don't, there is no delay in getting into the stadium. Forgetting, of course, if you get there early, you just have to sit there because there's no entertainment, of course.
You can try the salt.
Yeah, I know. You can go and...
But take your own bottle of
run
tequila.
Run through your salt. There's lemon.
Now, this is the thing that I think they should do that would instantly make football, AFL games around the country more exciting. Which is...
Well, they're always tinkering with the rules.
Yeah, so this is an Arkansas, your favourites. Do you like... Have you ever been to Arkansas?
Never been to Arkansas.
Do you want to go to Arkansas?
Not really. I've been to Alabama. Alabama's actually a great place.
You liked Alabama?
I enjoyed Alabama.
Is it the racism that attracted you? Because a lot of your views today are reflected.
Well, it can
Was it in the last week?
It can be hot in summer. Those white robes are fairly cooling,
Take off the two scarves. So you have been to Alabama?
Yeah, I went to the University of Alabama.
What? Every week it's like you're an onion and we're unpeeling the layers. When did you go there?
About 100 years ago.
Were you working there as a cleaner or something, or were you actually a student?
I was actually studying there. And
you're kidding me.
In Tuscaloosa.
The Crimson Tide.
The Crimson Tide. That's where I got there and had no idea about American football. But if you want to learn about the NFL, go to the University of Alabama. It is a dead set religion.
And they're basically the best team in college football for a long time.
Yeah. But the funny thing was living there, the normal student accommodation, which, as you'd expect, a tiny little room with 2 single beds and a half a desk. And that was with 2 blokes living in there.
What were you studying?
Studying? Oh, English. Yeah. In Alabama.
Yeah, so you're learning y'all?
Yeah.
My favourite story about the Crimson Tide?
Yes.
So they're the college football program there.
Yeah.
Massive success. I think they've won three out of the last 5 national championships or something.
They got beaten this year unexpectedly by LSU.
But they win all the time. And so they, back in the 50s, had a coach who, they had a colour ban. So they basically couldn't bring in anyone who was African American to play. They were an all-white team.
It was the Deep South, and it was. We laugh about it, but it was the worst part of the Deep South.
It still is. It was. So their coach at the time, Bear Bryant, one of the most famous American football college coaches, if probably the most famous. Yeah. He was desperate to get African Americans to play because he could see their talent, and he also wasn't a massive racist, which made him different at the time. So he decided that calling for African Americans to be allowed into the university. I don't think they were even allowed into the university, let alone on the college side, let alone on the football team. He was like, well, we're missing out on all these great players. And, he wanted to win. So he was trying to work out what the best way to get the alumni and the fans and the college to change their mind. And really, in Alabama, they are the state team. It's not just the college, everyone is into them. They're like, imagine the fanaticism of AFL, but you've only got one team. So it's like for example, the GWS fans.
It's like every game at Bear Bryant Stadium is sold out for years. It holds 90,000 people.
That's right.
And then there's another 20,000 outside having what they call their
tailgate
parties where everyone's just drinking beer and having a barbecue. And burning a few crosses.
So what he did is he knew if he went out and argued for it, he'd call out all these people would shout him down.
Yeah.
So what he did is he scheduled a game at home, at their hometown, against USC, University of Southern California, who had an integrated school. So they had lots of, and he knew they were a terrific team, and these African-American players were just amazing. So he brought them into play, Alabama, absolutely just knowing Alabama would get smashed. And that's what happened.
Yeah.
They got, and within moments afterwards, they were calling new policy.
Yeah.
Like forget race, and that's what I love. The shamelessness, like, racism's fun until we start to lose at the football.
Let's get those black kids in here. We're going to have a losing season.
That's right.
But when you say,
how clever was he in that he knew that to overcome the racism, he had to make them. Which is sad. It's actually sad, but he just very that he had to do that. But that's what he did to change the view there.
Yeah, but when you think about it, before we get off the subject of Alabama, you talk about the difficulty getting African Americans into the actual college.
Yeah,
everyone remember, you've seen the famous footage of the young girl being escorted by the National Guard into the American college. Yeah. Well, no, this was the University of Alabama in Tuscaloosa, and that was under the orders of JFK in 1961. And at that very spot now, which is sort of the main entrance, because like a lot of those American colleges and even Melbourne Uni and stuff like this, they're all beautiful old grandiose buildings. Yeah. But there's still a plaque out there now of where, I can't remember the girl's name, was escorted in there. It was 1961. Wasn't that long ago.
Yeah, it wasn't that long ago.
So anyway, Arkansas, how are they going?
Back to Arkansas, because you're where you haven't been.
Which is not far from Alabama.
But almost as racist.
Oh, yeah, just about.
They've come up with a new law that was signed in by the governor, Asa Hutchinson. Asa, there's an American name, if you want. Last Wednesday, allowing concealed weapons to be carried into sporting events at government-owned facilities within the state, which is most of the college stadiums, right? Now, this just means that you're allowed to carry your gun concealed legally into every football game in the state of Arkansas.
Could anything go wrong?
Well, Democratic Representative Greg Ledding, he expressed his belief that firearms, this is a controversial view, Serge, firearms at sporting events could be a potentially dangerous mix.
I don't know how he's come to that conclusion.
Well, he says people like to have a good time before the game, during the game, and during the game. People get emotional and angry at games. I think the idea of having putting loaded weapons into those situations is just ridiculous. And I thought about this and I thought, well, Greg, you're spot on, because I'm glad I didn't have a gun for the last 10 years of Melbourne playing.
Yeah, it wouldn't have been dangerous for anyone except yourself.
That's right. But is this not crazy? Is this the shame that we really do live in another... The Americans have lost it, haven't they?
They are. I mean,
not to write off a whole... We've written off India, China, so let's spread the love.
We may as well go
America's gone, right? There's not going to be an America in a few years, surely.
Again, concealed weapons is fine in America in so many places, and it's becoming bigger now. But even not unconcealed, it's like if you ever drive through Texas, you go to Texas.
Yeah.
Get out of Dallas.
Do you like Texas?
Texas is a fun joint, I've got to say.
Gee, you always surprise
me. The first time I went to Texas was when we were at Alabama and we did the road trip thing.
Right.
So we go into Texas, we go into this. We stopped in this little town. They all said, "Oh, I'm not stopping this dump." And I said, "No, have a look at it. It looks like something out of a movie." So we go into this little roadside bar, and the first thing you see is a big sign behind the bar saying, "Give me your guns." Or no, what did it say? No guns, no beer, I think is what it said.
Right.
So you had to give your guns up to the bartender before he'd serve you a beer.
Right.
Yeah, so I handed over all my weapons and was able to buy a Budweiser. But it's not an unusual thing to see in places in the Deep South and in Texas. Guys just walking around. They go into...
Still with their holster.
In their holster. Or Walmart, they'll go in with like a submachine gun. Just over their shoulder like you would.
Because they're going hunting.
Yeah, it's going in on that. Need some shells for the M15. Oh, aisle 5, sir. It's not uncommon. As stupid as it sounds,
Yeah, here in Victoria,
Yeah.
we can't even have a T-shirt cannon.
We can't have a T-shirt cannon.
And in Arkansas, you can take a gun in concealed.
You can have a 44 Magnum.
If you did this here, you'd turn up the MCG or any of the AFL stadiums, and security would run the wand over you.
Yeah.
And they'd go, it would go beep, beep. They go, is that a hip flask, sir? I go, no, it's my gun. No worries, sir. Through you go.
They go, that's
But
funny.
if you hit flask, they'll take it off
if
you.
your flask goes off, don't worry about that.
Because that's where they could make money.
See what they should just stick with flares. If you're going to go to a game, just stick with flares.
When you think about it, wouldn't you love it? You know, we could if the difference would be in Australia if they legalised carrying concealed weapons or weapons into stadiums, the AFL would pretty quickly license a range of guns, all in team colours. Don't you think? Except for
a box of team bullets.
Except for the Gold Coast Suns one, which fires blanks. Now, getting to the listeners' questions, Lee Jones wrote in, if you had the choice of watching Bob Morrison reruns or Freo games, how many episodes of Bob could you watch in one sitting? Now, we should add, you revealed the other week that you were very close to being...
No, I wasn't very close.
You were very close. Don't introduce facts into this podcast. You were very close to being the voice of Bob Morrison. You did actually try out.
I did audition because the producer asked me.
A terrible talking dog show on Channel 9.
Channel 9, yeah. And they said, the producer said to me, he said, you got a big, deep, stupid, croaky voice.
Sure
why don't you try it for the... And so I did, and it just, if people didn't hear it, they came back and I said, well, it's actually a pretty little cute, white, fluffy, sparky dog, and you sound like a big old bloodhound lying on a couch
Did
drooling.
They also say to you, the dog's less racist?
I shouldn't have licked myself at the audition either.
Sean Brennan said, what do you think...
Hang on, Titus. We should answer Lee Jones here. How many episodes of Bob could you watch in one sitting? 12, because that's all they made.
That's true.
They got axed after that.
I'll tell you what, watching Freo last night, they're painful.
They were shocking.
I'm glad they're not just a flash in the pan last year.
Yeah.
But they really are terrible.
That's one thing they've brought to their game is consistency now.
They're talking about a 4-year rebuild and all this sort of stuff. And I'm like, gee, Ross Lyon's living a charmed life over there.
How can he go from a grand final and a pretty good grand final? They weren't thrashed by the Hawks. 2 years later, just being... Easy beats, nothing.
Well, I mean, losing over there...
Zach Dawson still gets a game.
Well...
He should have delisted himself at the end of last season.
Sean Brennan wrote in...
And good afternoon, Zach Dawson.
If you're listening. Sean Brennan wrote in, what do you think BT's buyout clause from Channel 7 would be, and do you think we could crowdfund it by the start of round 2?
Round 2 might be pushing it, but I reckon by Easter we'd have a fairly good war chest.
I thought with BT, and I've been one of his harshest critics over a long period of time, and I'm still not saying he's been terrific, he does seem to have been told, I think, to tone it down a bit by Channel 7.
Yeah.
I'm not saying I'm enjoying it, but he does seem to have...
he's not as...
They've obviously told him, you're annoying everyone. You're at a 10 and we need you at a 6.
It's not a bad idea, a crowdfunded buyout clause. Yeah.
God, but where does it end? You'd buy out a lot of them.
You would.
There wouldn't be many commentators.
I'd put up 100 for Basil.
Well, Bruce would be the only one left, I think. Now that I'd pay a lot of money for get Dennis back.
Oh yeah, you see, let's think this through. If we crowdfunded a war chest, to get rid of BT and bring Dennis back, you'd float that.
Oh yeah, we'd all be rich. Talking. Matthew Holland wrote in, considering Jordan De Goey is out for a month with a broken hand, and on top of that, he has a 3-game ban for lying to the club. Is it safe to say he's played his last game under Nathan Buckley?
Okay, hang on, let's do the maths. So, Matthew, you're suggesting that Nathan won't last beyond about round 7.
Yeah, well, I don't know. I think the best case scenario for us non-Pie supporter is Collingwood turn in a fairly middling, but not a bad season. Like maybe even finished 8th.
8th or 9th.
Bundled out in the first round of the finals.
Which will keep
Buckley there.
Keep Buckley there. Yeah, we should start the Keep Buckley at Collingwood faction.
There's nothing we'd like more. I am worried Collingwood are going to be good, and that's like a lot of our material gone for the year. We're going to really be pushing uphill to go on that. Nick C wrote in, Nick, I've gone off here because this question is so spot on. Is there anything more certain in life than a favoured Melbourne side losing to the Blues next week?
Oh, I mean,
it's Sunday afternoon game.
I don't know, Nick, if you're a Melbourne supporter, but every Melbourne
Nick's
supporter in
town
town's
a wise man.
Been saying this since we beat St Kilda. Every Melbourne supporter I've spoken to have gone, yeah, well, we should whack Carlton next week and be 2-0. And then everyone stops and looks at each other and goes, yeah, if we whack Carlton, danger game. Well, you couldn't beat it. They beat it. They thrashed us last year in about round 21.
But when finals were on the line.
Yeah, so.
But it's a different side now, Serge. Come on.
Okay.
Stop the air of negativity around the Melbourne Football Club. You can bring this up on your podcast. Your traitorous podcast.
Yeah, okay. Jeez, this has gone down well. Glad I brought this up.
I'm just hurt. Manny Bow wrote in, I'm sure Manny's addressing this at you. Did you enjoy the new Beauty and the Beast movie? There is no person on earth I would expect to be less likely to see that movie than you.
I'll tell you something, Titus O'Reilly. I haven't seen the movie, but I saw the stage show in New York. I saw the Broadway musical.
You are a massive fan of Broadway.
Oh, yeah.
Why were you at that?
A couple of show tunes.
Was it actually any good?
Well, yeah, I mean, it wasn't bad if you're into that sort of thing. I've got to say it.
And you are.
Oh, yeah, I am. I'm big on your show tunes in general. But no, I haven't seen the new movie, Manny. But and I probably won't, to be honest.
No, you probably won't.
Now, just before we go, we've had a late. Not a question, but somebody telling us something.
We did.
Some late breaking news.
Before we go, we also need to give the winner. So you go first, and then but don't let us leave.
No,
as we have before.
Yeah, without doing the winner of the T-shirt. No, we've got some late breaking news that's come through from our mate in South Dakota, Senor Hijas.
Oh yes,
he's let us know that San Diego, the city in California, just south of Los Angeles on the Mexican border, they've got a new professional soccer team starting new season.
This is in the Major League Soccer?
In Major League Soccer in America, which is a pretty big competition, actually. And they've had a public competition to name the team.
Which always goes down well in the social media age.
And the leading name was San Diego Surf. Which kind of makes sense because it's a surfing town.
It's meant to be a very nice city,
it's a
San Diego.
Spot, San Diego.
Have you been to San Diego?
Been to San Diego. I like San Diego.
Did you go to uni there?
No, I didn't go to uni there. But I did see Beauty and the Beast. But no, they've had the public competition, and San Diego Surf, as I said, was leading.
One, or is it was leading?
There's been a late surge on the
on another name.
Yes, another name, and guess this, it's leading. They want to call the team Footy McFooty Face. No, I'm not kidding. I got this message from Senor Hias this morning. I thought, oh, come on. But I've checked it out. It is true.
That's great.
It's 3-1 over the San Diego Surf.
I love the stupidity of the internet.
Yes.
That's what it's the best thing it's for.
But yeah, and the stupidity of people in positions of authority saying, we'll take a public vote on this.
But then we'll ignore it.
Yeah, and they should be knowing that the entire public is just going to take the piss out of them and the entire thing.
Yeah.
As in Boaty McBoatface.
But Boaty McBoatface, and they didn't end up naming that boat Boaty McBoatface, but then a submarine took the name on or something. But
somebody else pitched the name, yeah.
That was the best name. That would have guaranteed that organisation, which was a scientific organisation, more coverage,
publicity for
than
years,
anything that they'd ever do. Yeah. And at a time when science is needing some positive coverage and some help,
some extra cash.
But they went, no, and I think they called it David after David Attenborough, who I appreciate, but it's no Boaty McBoatface.
No, of course it isn't. Now, quickly before we forget, who won the T-shirt?
I was going to go with Matthew Holland on his Jordan De Goey question.
Yeah, that is a good question.
Is he ever going to play for Nathan Buckley again? Because it's funny because it's true.
Yeah.
So well done, Matthew. I'll get in contact with you. I have a pile of T-shirts and mugs that are all boxed up here as we're doing this. They're about to get lodged with the postage service, which are for members who have joined up as gold and silver members. So I'll put the link if you do want to become a supporter. Supporters get access to that and a bunch of other things, and we really appreciate it because it means we can stay independent and actually produce this stuff.
Exactly.
on a regular basis.
A lot of people would ask why, but yeah. It does allow us to be independent and keep doing it.
Now, we've got another one on Thursday we're doing.
Yep. Can't name the guest just yet.
Oh,
it's a mystery.
Because it's a mystery guest because we haven't worked it out yet.
Yeah.
But we actually got, we talked about this morning, we've actually got, we do have some ideas for some people this week, and I've got a bunch lined up for the weeks coming up.
Yes, we do. We have some big names coming.
Yeah, some very good people coming in, and some...
Of course, I don't have this problem on my other podcast.
Oh, stop it. It's just not fair. Let's take this off air. People don't like it when dad and dad fight. So we will see you next week. It was great to have round 1 back, and we're looking forward to round 2 now because this is a crazy
Footy's
season.
Back, and it just can't get any better.
And it's reminded us that we all know absolutely nothing about the game we love.
No.
See you next Thursday.
See ya.